So in our previous class, we discussed about selection of auditor. And I told you in the previous class, the selection procedure, appointment procedure are different for government company and non-government company. So the selection process of auditor is also different for government company and non-government. And we discussed question number 5, selection process of auditor for non-government company. And what we understood in that, if in case of a non-government company where audit committee is constituted, then the auditor shall be selected by audit committee on a suitable basis. And the same auditor selected by audit committee, they will recommend to board of directors and board will recommend to members and members will take the final call. Sometimes board of directors may disagree with the recommendation made by audit committee. In such a case, board of directors request back to the audit committee for changing another auditor. And if audit committee, after considering board of directors request, they decided no, this auditor is very much correct, like that they decided, in that case audit committee may not change and board of directors have overriding power to select their own auditor. And whenever they select their own auditor by ignoring audit committee decision, board of directors have another responsibility. They need to tell members why they are in a disagreement with audit committee, what is the reasons thereof. And what audit committee will consist of, who will form this audit committee? Board of directors will form the audit committee. Minimum 3 directors are required and all 3 of them should be members. Majority of them should be independent directors and should have the ability to read and understand financial statements. So that is about audit committee concept. Now let us look at appointment procedure. Let us look at appointment procedure. Appointment of an auditor. Appointment process. Section 139. As I already told you, the appointment process is different for government company and non-government company. The appointment process is different for government company and non-government company. For government company, what is the procedure? Again, the appointment process is subdivided into two more types. How to appoint the first auditor, how to appoint the subsequent auditor. Same way in case of non-government company, how to appoint the first auditor and how to appoint the subsequent auditor. So if you observe, totally 4 combinations are there. Government company first auditor, government company subsequent auditor, non-government companies first auditor and the same non-government company subsequent auditor. 4 combinations we have. So what is the procedure that we need to follow? What is that duration, period, time limits and all that we need to follow? We are going to discuss here. So first we'll cover about government company. What is the appointment procedure for government company? The first auditor, remember in case of government company, all audit related affairs will be taken care by C&AG. What is C&AG? Comptroller and Auditors General. Comptroller and Auditors General of India. The C&AG will be appointed by President of India. The C&AG will be appointed for 6 years duration. Current C&AG is Marmu, Professor Sam. Okay, so he is right now the person who has been appointed very recently as a C&AG, as a C&AG. He was appointed around in August 2020. He was appointed as a C&AG in India. So he will be, C&AG will be appointed by simply President of India. He can only be removed by President of India. All audit related affairs of Government of India, Government of State, government company, everything will be taken care by C&AG. Now, the first auditor of a government company shall be appointed by, the first auditor shall be appointed by C&AG within 60 days from date of registration. See, generally people directly start reading this particular point. But before this, there is an important point which you need to read. What do you mean by first auditor? What do you mean by subsequent auditor? Without understanding the concept of first auditor and subsequent auditor, it is not correct for us to directly go into appointment procedure of first auditor. So the first and foremost thing you need to have clarity is, what do you mean by first auditor and what do you mean by subsequent auditor? Who is a subsequent auditor other than first auditor? Other than first auditor is a subsequent auditor. Sir, did company law provides any definition for these two or any explanation in any section for these two are provided? Not provided. But how come you are saying the definitions here? Based on a general interpretation and understanding. Based on an interpretation and understanding, I am defining subsequent auditor means other than first auditor. Now, who is a first auditor? First auditor is a person who is appointed for the first financial year of the company. For the first financial year of the company, an auditor appointed for the first financial year of the company. What do you mean by first financial year of company? Nothing but year of incorporation. Nothing but year of incorporation. The first auditor is nothing but auditor appointed for year of incorporation. What is the financial year in which the company gets incorporated? Suppose if the company is incorporated on 10th August 2020, 2021 is the financial year, first financial year. If for that financial year we are appointing the auditor, then we call him as first auditor. Very simple. If an auditor is appointed for not this year, later years, then we call him as subsequent auditor. He is not the first auditor, subsequent auditor. So for the first year, if an auditor is appointed, he will be called as first auditor. Next. So the first auditor in case of government company shall be appointed by C&AG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, within 60 days from the date of registration. And if C&AG fails to do so, if C&AG fails, in reality, C&AG will never fail. They will always appoint, because now it is completely computerized. The moment a government company gets incorporated, C&AG computer, like that, the software, they will allot the audit to some auditor automatically. Only thing is some, C&AG, some staff has to approve it. That's it. Okay. So if C&AG fails, which is theoretical case, if C&AG fails to do so, then board of directors will have the power to appoint the auditor within next 30 days. Within next 30 days. Okay. If C&AG fails to do so, to appoint the auditor within 60 days from date of registration, then from 61st day to 90th day, nothing but next 30 days, board of directors shall appoint the auditor. Sir, what if board of directors also fails to do so, which also never happens, if they fails to do so, then members of the company shall appoint the auditor within next 60 days, at extraordinary general meeting of the company. Whenever a decision has to be taken by members of the company, obviously general meeting shall be conducted. And if AGM is not due anytime nearly, then obviously you need to conduct EGM. As you know, in company law, we have two types of members related meetings. One is annual general meeting, which is every year will be conducted. Another is EGM. Whenever an issue arises where members' decision is required, before proceeding on that issue, he will conduct EGM. So this is the procedure. And the auditor, whoever is appointed here, you're going to appoint the auditor, right? His appointment is valid. Until conclusion of next AGM. In fact, here in this case, instead of using the word next, they have used the word first. Until conclusion of first AGM. Even if you use the word next also, the conceptually it doesn't bring any wrong answer. But terminology is changing. No? That's why let us keep the same terminology. The first auditor of a government company, his appointment is valid until conclusion of the first AGM. Understand, the word used is conclusion of the AGM, not the commencement of the AGM. Conclusion means AGM is completed. Until AGM gets completed, so auditor shall be appointed. Sir, AGM starting date and completion date, will there be a chance of difference? Yes. There is a concept called adjournment of AGM. There is a concept called adjournment of AGM. Sometimes general meetings can be adjourned. Adjourned means like postponed. In such a case, we call it as adjournment. We call such scenario as adjournment. Now, whenever an adjournment of AGM happened, whenever an adjournment happened, suppose AGM was originally started on 1st July, but adjourned to 20th July, let us assume. Now on 20th July, no more further adjournments. On 20th July, AGM is over. The conclusion date is 20th July, not the 1st July. So the word used is conclusion of AGM. So C&AG shall appoint the auditor within 60 days from the date of registration, nothing but incorporation, nothing but certificate of incorporation. So they shall appoint within 60 days. If C&AG fails to do so, board of directors shall appoint within next 30 days. If board of directors also fails to do so, then members of the company shall appoint the auditor within next 60 days at extraordinary general meeting. And that auditor appointment is valid until conclusion of first AGM. This is the procedure for first auditor. So what is the procedure for subsequent auditor? What is the procedure for subsequent auditor? The subsequent auditor procedure, same. Here also, C&AG only shall appoint the power. C&AG only shall have to appoint the auditor. C&AG shall appoint the auditor within 180 days. 180 days from commencement of the financial year. Commencement of the financial year. The subsequent auditor shall be appointed by C&AG within 180 days from the beginning of the corresponding financial year. See, I'll tell you one more point. C&AG shall appoint auditor, right? Who should be the auditor? What is his qualification? He must be a chartered accountant. The auditor must be a chartered accountant having certificate of practice. The person whom we are appointing as an auditor must be a chartered accountant having certificate of practice. You know, there is a concept called C&AG empanelment. C&AG empanelment. You know, we audit firms, no, we are practicing auditors, we audit firms, register under C&AG empanelment. We register with them. Only if an auditor who registers with C&AG empanelment, he will only get the eligibility to act as a government auditor. Suppose you have not registered, you don't want to do government audits, you did not register, you can never be appointed by C&AG. So there is an empanelment registration form. You need to register with C&AG that you are interested to do government audits. Then C&AG, whenever the time comes, they look at your firm, how many partners, how many articles, what is the size, which locality, in the nearby locality, what government companies are there. Depending upon all that, they will take a decision and then appoint you as an auditor for a government company. So that's the procedure. So the subsequent auditor shall be appointed by C&AG within 180 days from the commencement of the financial year. Within 180 days from the commencement of the financial year. And this auditor appointment is valid. This auditor's appointment is valid until conclusion of next AGM. Until conclusion of next AGM. Let us look at a illustration with dates. Let us look at a small illustration where we will also be discussing about various dates. Suppose a government company is incorporated on 10th May 2020. 10th May 2020, the government company newly incorporated. Okay, this is the incorporation date. As usual, C&AG did not fail. They appointed the auditor within just 10 days itself. So Mr. A was appointed as an auditor, on 20th May 2020. And the first financial year of the company is financial year 2020 2021. This is the first financial year. C&H appointed within 60 days, in fact 10 days itself. Now this auditor, what is the closure of the financial year? Understand, closure of the financial year is what? 31st March 2021. Now the company is conducting general meeting, AGM, first AGM the company is conducting on 10th July 2021, 10th July. On the same date only AGM is also over, conclusion. So Mr. A, his appointment is valid until 10th July. His appointment is valid from 20th May to 10th July. This is the appointment period validity of appointment. Sir, on 10th July, what Mr. A? He should vacate the office because the appointment is over. The period for which you are appointed, it is over. The term expired. This is called expiry of term. Expiry of term of auditor. Your auditor term has been expired. You are appointed within 60 days. Is done. Your appointment is valid until conclusion of first AGM. First AGM is concluded. So the term of appointment is expired. So you need to vacate. Now, by the way, what is the second financial year? I told you first financial year is 2021. Obviously, second financial year is what? 2021, 2022. If you observe the the subsequent auditor also shall be appointed by C&H, right? What is the time periods for appointment? Within 180 days from beginning of the financial year, from 1st April 21. From 1st April 2021, you need to appoint within 180 days. What is 180 days within 1st April? 180th day, September 27th. September 27th will be the 180th day. All of you now have to reply me, what if it is a leap year? What would be the date if it is leap year? All of you should reply me fast. What would be the date if at all it is a leap year? Within 180 days I should appoint, right? The 180th day comes September 27th. What would be your answer if it is a leap year? Very good. Same date, because there is no February here. First of all, understand that. Yeah, very good. Some students will reply straight away September 28th or September 26th. September 27th only. Here there is no leap year in between. No, April to September there is no leap year. There is no February month, right? So 29th day won't come. Fine, anyhow. So second auditor, second financial year is 21-22. Second auditor shall be appointed. Subsequent auditor shall be appointed within September 27th. But then the government company has the C&H appointed on 20th May itself. 20th May 2021 itself, Mr. B was appointed. 20th May 2021, Mr. B was appointed. And if you observe, Mr. A, first auditor, is leaving the company on 10th July. Before he left the company itself, Mr. B also appointed as an auditor. As on 20th May, company is having two auditors, A, B. But Mr. A is doing audit of 2021. Mr. B is doing audit of 21-22. So the years are different. Mr. A will leave after first AGM. Mr. B will leave after conclusion of next AGM. Next AGM will be conducted when 31st March 2022 is the closure of the financial year. Assuming same AGM date the company is conducting, 10th July 2022, same date company is conducting AGM every time. So 10th July 2022. So on 10th July 2022, Mr. B will vacate. Before 10th July itself, within 180 days, in the third year, 22-23, C&H will again appoint another auditor. So the chain continues. So this is the concept of appointment of auditors for government company. Are you all clear? Have you understood? For government company, everyone understood or not? Can you please confirm me? Can you please confirm me, all of you? Next. Next, non-government company. Let us now discuss about non-government company. Non-government company. So what is the procedure for appointment of auditor in case of non-government company? Again, here also the appointment procedure has been divided into two types: first auditor and same subsequent auditor. Subsequent auditor. You would have heard one concept: auditor will be appointed for 5 years. That concept will come only for non-government company. You have seen government company. If an auditor is appointed in current year, his appointment will be valid only until conclusion of next year. Okay, only until conclusion of next year, next AGM. So now non-government company, what is the procedure for first auditor and what is the procedure for subsequent auditor? In case of non-government company, the first auditor shall be, the first auditor in case of non-government company shall be appointed by board of directors on recommendation of audit committee. Of course, whenever an audit committee is there, board of directors have to follow audit committee recommendation. They should take audit committee recommendation also into account if audit committee is there. Otherwise, board will directly select. So board will only select and appoint the auditor within 30 days. Within 30 days from date of incorporation, from date of registration. If board fails to do so, then members will appoint the auditor within 90 days. Within 90 days. Here the word next has not been used. Here the word next has not been used. If you read cumulatively the sentence, if you look at the law, if you read the original drafting, the board of directors shall appoint the auditor within 30 days from the date of incorporation, and if board fails to do so, then members shall appoint within 90 days. So the members will appoint the auditor within next 90 days. Within 90 days. In fact, now the word next is not used. So which means I can say there are two interpretations of possible. Sir, which means members will get only 60 days time limit additionally. Maybe yes. Or sir, members may get additionally 90 days. I may take a beneficial interpretation. Both are possible. Till now there is no concrete evidence on this, because till now this provision has not applied. Always board of directors will appoint the auditor. So the concept of appointment by members practically have not come. And now his appointment is valid. His appointment is valid until conclusion of first AGM. Until conclusion of first AGM. The first auditor shall be appointed by board of directors within 30 days from the date of registration. If they fails to do so, then members will appoint within 90 days, and the first auditor shall hold office until conclusion of first AGM. His appointment is valid until conclusion of first AGM. Before I proceed further, one doubt I am receiving. In case of government company, subsequent auditor shall be, like every year change. I mean, will auditor be changed every year? Is it compulsory? It depends on C&AG rules. If they want to change, they'll change. Otherwise, they won't. Okay. If now you see for bank audits, rotation concept have been removed. See, we have in company audit rotation of auditors topic. That is different. RBI rotation is different. C&AG rotations are different. That is as per RBI rules, C&AG rules. Now RBI has recently passed a circular saying for banks, there is no compulsory change of auditors. There is no mandatory rotation cooling period concept they removed for banks. See, you have never seen that provisions at all. So don't assume that you know it. Like what you are discussing about what the kind of rotation of auditors that you are aware previously, that is completely different. I'm talking about RBI rotation concept. I'm talking about C&AG rotation concept. So C&AG will have rotation concept. They will rotate the auditor as per their cycle, as per their rules. RBI also will rotate the auditors for banks as per their cycle. So whether auditor will be compulsorily changed or not in case of government company, that C&AG will take care. But of course, yes, once in 3 years they'll rotate. And another question is, in case of government company, subsequent auditor shall be valid to act as an auditor till conclusion of next AGM. Of course, that's what I meant. The subsequent auditor or first auditor, whoever it is, their appointment is valid until conclusion of the next AGM. They're appointed now, right? Not the immediate AGM, the next year AGM. The year has to get complete, then upcoming AGM. That's it. And of course, conclusion of the next AGM. Now coming back to the non-government company, the first auditor shall be appointed by board of directors within 30 days and the members shall appoint within 90 days. And the appointment is valid until conclusion of first AGM. Now coming to subsequent auditor, the subsequent auditor shall always be appointed by members, In fact, no, the law says appointment by members. It's not actually correct as per the law. I say approval by members. Because I told you, board of directors are the one who are ultimately selecting the auditor. Members are just coming and approving it. They are not appointing him. By approval, they are appointing him. I understand. By approval, they are appointing. But they only have the power to approve, not the power to appoint. Because of the approval, appointment is a course of action. Appointment is a consequence of action. Approval is a course of action. Okay. Through approval course, they are appointing. So members are not actually appointing directly. Our board of directors are selecting and members are just giving their approval. Fine. Anyhow, the law uses the word appointment. Subsequent auditor shall be appointed by members. Subsequent auditor shall be appointed by members at AGM. The subsequent auditor shall be appointed by members at AGM whose appointment is valid. Note it here clearly. Don't think of any other thing. Appointment is valid until conclusion of 6th AGM. Until conclusion of 6th AGM, calculated from the AGM where he was appointed. You see, this is the concept where the concept of 5 years comes into picture. The subsequent auditor shall be appointed by members at AGM. The subsequent auditor shall be appointed by members at AGM. Yeah, okay, appointment is done. Until when his appointment is valid? Until conclusion of 6th AGM from the AGM where he was appointed. Until conclusion of 6th AGM, his appointment is valid. Like everyone reads this as it is. But the problem is they don't visualize with a proper example. What do you mean by 6th AGM? You need to visualize along with the dates for a concrete understanding. Now let us take one illustration. Suppose there is a non-government company. Which may be a private limited or which may be a public limited, incorporated on same. Let us take same date, 10th May 2000. Let us assume 16 it was incorporated. Let us assume 10th May 2016 it was incorporated. Now board of directors have appointed the auditor Mr. A. Mr. A was appointed as an auditor on 20th May 2016. 20th May 2016, board of directors appointed Mr. A. By the way, what is the first financial year? Financial year is 2016-2017. What is the first AGM date? Company is conducting AGM on let us assume 10th July 2017. So financial year will complete on 31st March 2017. This is the financial year. Okay, 10th May to 31st March is the financial year. Once financial year completed, the company is conducting AGM every time 10th July. This is the first AGM. Company felt this day is good for them. So every year they are conducting on the same day, except if it is a case of Sunday, public holidays. Okay, assume 10th July is the AGM date at which they are every time conducting. Fine. So 10th July they decided. So now the auditor, no, Mr. A was appointed on 20th May, right? His appointment is valid up to 10th July 2017. Now, by the way, Mr. A will do audit of which financial year for the first time? 16-17 financial year. If you see, he has been appointed during the year. May, in between he was appointed. Always remember, auditor will be appointed neither before the starting of the year nor after the completion of the year. He will be appointed during the year. When the year is going on, at that moment he will be appointed. Always remember, observe this point, very important. So Mr. A is appointed on 20th May and his appointment is valid up until conclusion of 10th, first AGM, which is 10th July. On 10th July, company members appointed Mr. B, another auditor. Mr. B, another auditor, whose appointment is valid until conclusion of 6th AGM from the AGM where he was appointed, until conclusion of 6th AGM from the AGM where he was appointed. Now let us see, list out. Let us list out all the AGMs. Okay, next, like first financial year. First financial year of the company is 16-17. Auditor is Mr. A. His appointment date is 20th May 2016. His first AGM conclusion date. Before that, year end. What is the year end, by the way? 31st March 2017. What is the AGM date? What is the AGM date for that year? 10th July 2017. So auditor appointment date. Auditor appointment is valid. Appointment is valid up to same 10th July, up to 10th July 2017. So by then auditor will leave the office. Now we have brought Mr. B. When he was appointed, appointment validity. Here it is appointment validity. When he was appointed, he is appointed on AGM 10th July 2017. Okay. Sir, first year Mr. B will do which year audit? Obviously 17-18 audit he will do. He will do audit of 17-18. First he will do audit of 17-18. Sir, 17-18 will close on 31st March 2018. AGM will be held on same date companies following because of due to certain sentiments they have. 10th July 2018 is the second AGM. Sir, auditor will leave now. No, he will not leave because his appointment is valid until 6th AGM from the AGM where he was appointed. This is the AGM he was appointed. If this is the first AGM, now this comes as second AGM. His AGM is valid until 6th AGM. Let us assume. So he has gave audit report, everything is over. Then he will do audit of 18-19. He will do audit of 18-19. Same Mr. B only will continue. Okay. Appointment is not applicable. Already appointed. His appointment is valid up till until conclusion of 6th AGM. What is the year end for that? 31st March 2019. Okay. Now, when the AGM is conducted 10th July 2019, which is the third AGM of the company, is his appointment over? Not yet. Oh, fine. Next, he will do audit of 19-20. Mr. B, he appointment date not applicable. Already appointed long back. Okay. Already he has been appointed. His appointment date is fixed. Getting it? Next, what is the year end? 31st March 2020. Now, fourth AGM, 10th July 2020, which is the fourth AGM. Now, appointment is over. Not yet. His appointment is over. His appointment is valid until conclusion of 6th AGM. That you need to understand. Until conclusion of 6th AGM. Then again, next year, 2021, same Mr. B only will do. Year closure, 31st March 2021. And the AGM will be conducted on 10th July 2021, which is a fifth AGM. Is his appointment over? No, his appointment is valid until 6th AGM from the AGM. See, he was appointed in this AGM, right? 10th July. If I assume this is the first AGM, from that AGM, 6th AGM, you need to calculate. Okay, next he will do audit of 21-22. Same Mr. B only will do. Audit will close on 31st March 2022. Now the sixth AGM is held on 10th July to 2022. Now you come back. His appointment is valid until conclusion of sixth AGM, right? So the appointment is concluded here. His appointment is valid until 10th July 2022. His appointment is valid until 10th July 2022. This is the period for which he is appointed. Sir, auditor is appointed for 5 years, sir. That sentence is also wrong. Auditor is appointed for 5 financial years. If you observe, auditor is appointed for 5 financial years. And you see, auditor should not leave unless his audit report is adopted. Auditor should leave company when audit is over, audit report is given, shareholders also approved everything, only then my duty is over. That's why you see, auditor appointment is not valid, not up to closure of the year, not up to the date of giving audit report, but until conclusion of AGM, until conclusion of AGM, 6th AGM. So if someone says, sir, auditor will be appointed for 5 years, that's actually wrong phrase. That's not the right phrase. Sir, auditor will be appointed for conducting audit of 5 financial years, 100% right phrase. This is how the dates comes. But actually, if you look at the company, company, this is not the first AGM of the company. This is somewhere 49th AGM of the company. Company has been incorporated long back, 49th AGM. This is 50th AGM. This is 51st AGM. This is 52nd AGM. This is 53rd AGM. This is 54th AGM. If you see notice of any company, appointment notice of any company, notice of AGM or appointment letters of the auditor, notice says Reliance Industries Limited is appointing the auditor from 38th AGM till the conclusion of 43rd AGM. That's how they say. Sir, words are 38, 43 are there in the law. It says first 161, The law says first AGM word also they have not used. What they used, what is the sentence that they used? In case of non-government company, the auditor shall be appointed, subsequent auditor shall be appointed by members at AGM they used, not first AGM. It is not first. They said at AGM they will appoint. Now his appointment is valid until conclusion of 6th AGM, not 6th AGM in literal sense, 6th AGM from the AGM where he was appointed. He was appointed in AGM, right? From that AGM, calculate 6th AGM. Which means if this AGM is 40th AGM, then 6th AGM is 45th. If this AGM is 41st AGM, then 6th AGM is 46th. If this AGM is 38th AGM, then 6th AGM is 43rd. So in real life, you will find these kind of terminology in the notices. You don't find first to sixth and all. Getting it? But the concept is applied or not, you need to check carefully. So this is the comprehensive example which I gave you. If you want, you can take a note of it. You can take a note of it or take a screenshot of it, at least. I hope you are confident on the appointment, got some clarity which you never got before. And one student is asking a doubt. Bank is also a company. There is a conflict relating to Companies Act. See, if you look at the applicability provisions of Companies Act, section 1, if you look at the applicability provisions of Companies Act, the applicability says Companies Act is applicable. Companies Act is applicable to all the companies, including the following: banking company, insurance company, electricity company, corporations, any other body corporate, except if any provisions of respective law specifically contains something, then specific law will prevail over Companies Act. Wherever conflict is there, the other law will prevail. Companies Act itself gave permission. So that's why you need to always read the law also carefully. The first chapter, first question is regarding applicability. Fine. So all of you, can you please reply me in the chat box? Are you confident of appointment procedure? Are you confident? Yes. Very good. Very good. Very good. Now, if you observe, so we'll read this question. Question number 6. Question number 6. Explain the provisions relating to appointment of an auditor. I want one of you to read this. Rajeshwari, can you read, ma? I think your surroundings are quiet.
Explain the provisions relating to appointment of auditor of a company.
Hmm.
Section 139 of the Companies Act 2013 contains provisions regarding appointment of auditors. The section divides the appointment into two parts: appointment of first auditors, appointment of subsequent auditors. Further, the appointment procedure is separately
Separately dealt. Yeah.
dealt for government companies and non-government company. Appointment of first auditor. In case of non-government company, section 139 subsection 6, the first auditor of non-government company shall be appointed by board of directors within 30 days from the date of registration of the company.
Yes.
If the board fails to appoint, it shall inform the members of the company, and the members shall appoint the auditor within 90 days at an extraordinary general meeting,
Next.
EGM. Appointed auditors shall hold office till the conclusion of first annual general meeting. 2.
Next.
In case of government company, section 139 subsection 7, the first auditor shall be appointed by Comptroller and Auditor General of India (COG) within 60 days from the date of registration of the company. The COG fails to appoint auditor, then the board of
Actually,
directors.
Non-government company will come back to that and again read later. So now let us only stick to government company, first auditor, and government company subsequent. Once we finish these two reading, then we'll go to non-government. Yeah, once again start with the government company, ma.
The first auditor shall be appointed by Comptroller and Auditor General of India within 60 days from the date of registration of the company.
Next.
If COG fails to appoint the auditor, then board of directors shall appoint within next 30 days.
Yes.
If board of directors also fail, then shall inform to the members, who shall appoint such auditor within 60 days at an EGM.
Yes. Next.
The auditors appointed as above shall hold the office till the conclusion of first annual general meeting.
That's it. Next.
Appointment of subsequent auditors. In case of
Government
non-government,
government company you read. Then we'll go to non-government company. Yeah.
okay, sir. In case of company, section 139 subsection 5, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India shall appoint a chartered accountant in practice within a period of 180 days from the commencement of the financial year. The auditor appointed as above shall hold the office till the conclusion of next annual general meeting.
Yes.
Note: where at an AGM no auditor is appointed or
That
reappointed,
note point is not required right now. Now let us again come back to non-government company.
subsequent.
Yeah, non-government company, appointment of first auditor. Yeah, please.
Appointment of first auditor. In case of non-government company, section 139 subsection 6, the first auditor of non-government company shall be appointed by board of directors within 30 days from the date of registration of the company. If the board fails to appoint, it shall inform to the members, the company, and the member shall appoint the auditor within 90 days at an EGM, extraordinary general meeting. Appointed auditor shall hold the office till the conclusion of first annual general meeting.
Yeah, next in case of subsequent auditor.
In case of non-government company,
This I will
section
explain, ma.
139.
In case of non-government company, subsequent auditor, every company shall at AGM appoint an individual or a firm of chartered accountants as an auditor, and the appointed auditor shall hold office from the conclusion of that AGM till the conclusion of its sixth AGM, and thereafter till the conclusion of every time sixth AGM you need to calculate from that AGM. Whenever auditor is appointed in AGM, that's it. From that AGM, sixth AGM is appointment is valid straight away. Now the following certificate shall be obtained. This is an important question recently asked in November 2019. Also, this question has been asked for 3 marks. So what certificate or declaration auditor has to give before he will be appointed as an auditor? So before an appointment is made, the written consent of the auditor to the appointment shall be obtained. Auditor written consent shall be obtained. Free consent. Yes, he is interested. And a certificate declaration shall be obtained that he is eligible, not disqualified. Another certificate you should obtain the total number of company audits after accepting the appointment within the ceiling limit. I told no ceiling limit concept. Auditor has to give a certificate that is eligible, not disqualified, and the ceiling limit is within 20. You should give a certificate. Not only that, you should also indicate list of pending proceedings against the auditor or partner or firm in an appropriate manner. What are the pending proceedings against you? You should give all these 4. One is consent letter, one is certificate of disqualification, one is certificate of ceiling limit, another one is pending proceedings related disputes. 4 things you need to give with the company. then company will appoint. Then the board of, see these 4 items, no, you will give in the board meeting itself. After you have these 4 only, board of directors will recommend your name to members and members will appoint at AGM. Now, once appointment is made, the company shall file a notice of that appointment with the registrar within 15 days in ADT 1. See, in this chapter, we are going to find ADT 1, 2, 3 and 4. I will come to that form numbers later. That's it. So this is the question. And here there are some clarifications. One note point has been given, which is mentioned under 139 subsection 10. Suppose in case of non-government company, this is applicable for non-government company, no auditor is appointed or reappointed. In AGM, auditor discussion itself did not come into picture. In such case, existing auditor shall continue to be the auditor of the company. This provision practically do not come into picture. This provision is there in 1956 Companies Act when auditor appointment is on yearly basis, not 5 years at a time. That provision has been as it is copied from 1956 law to 2013 without understanding its relevance. So this provision is actually wrong. Practically, this case is not possible, as appointment and reappointment are ordinary businesses in AGM which cannot be ignored. They are called as ordinary. Every AGM, ordinary, obviously discussion of appointment, reappointment will come. There is no chance that they will forget. But anyhow, this provision is a useless, but maybe sometimes examiner will ask for true or false question. So for that reason, you need to read at least once. You just have to understand, yes, there is a provision such that. Have you all understood? All of you, just kindly reply me. Are you confident? Very good. That's it. Now, and we know already definition of government company. Government company is a company in which not less than 51% of paid up capital. Now this paid up capital has to be substituted with voting power in case a company issued differential voting rights shares. If you don't understand this entire sentence, leave it. Just you substitute the word voting power in the case of paid up share capital. That's it. So government company definition, it is already covered in your company law. I hope it doesn't require any repetition. A government company is a company in which not less than 51% of the paid up capital is held by case 1 central government, case 2 state governments, case 3 partly by central and state government, and case 4 a company which is a subsidiary of government company is a government company. That's it. That's it. And we have some practical questions on this. That practical questions we'll discuss later. Okay. Yeah. We'll take some 10 minutes break, ma. 10 minutes break we will take. Almost it is around 11. I'll get back by 11:10. So take a break. So now we have completed the concept of selection of auditor and appointment of auditor. And we understood selection process is different, appointment process is different. Again, if you take appointment process, government company, non-government company, there is a difference. Again, the first auditor and subsequent auditor, there is a difference. And all that we have seen with the practical illustrations also. Suppose if you look at Reliance AGM, no, Reliance notice of 37th or 38th AGM, if you take, there the appointment letter is like this. The auditor is appointed in 39th AGM. His appointment is valid up to 44th AGM. The Reliance Industries auditor is appointed on 39th AGM and his appointment is valid up to 44th AGM. Now in 44th AGM, they may bring another auditor whose appointment is valid from 44th AGM to 49th AGM. That's how the chain goes. Anyhow, I'll come back to that later when I'm explaining rotation of auditors. Now the concept is casual vacancy. Many of us would have read this concept of casual vacancy earlier. Many of us would have read the concept of casual vacancy earlier. But definitely, after I explain you, you'll understand the casual vacancy in a different perspective for sure. So what is a casual vacancy? First of all, let us understand the meaning of casual vacancy. In fact, if you look at the word, they have used a word called casual. Is this word have any significance? Is this word have any significance? Literally speaking, no. The word casual has no meaning to it. The only meaning that was given is to the word which is vacancy. There is a meaning only to the word vacancy. So then why did they use the word casual vacancy? Just like casually they used. There is no specific reason why they used. They just used it. The word casual vacancy terminology has been used from so long centuries. The same custom has been continued. Whenever in an official post there is a vacancy, instead of calling it as a simply vacancy, they just call it as a casual vacancy. That's it. So, is there any definition for casual vacancy under Companies Act? Yes. The Companies Act defines casual vacancy means in the context of auditor I'm talking, by the way, means a vacancy arising in auditor's office on account of any reason other than this is very important, other than expiry of term other than expiry of term. A vacancy arising in auditor's office. Auditor's office means what? Auditor's position. A vacancy arising in auditor's office on account of any reason other than expiry of term. On account of expiry of term, if a vacancy arises on expiry of term. What do you mean by expiry of term? I told you. Suppose auditor is appointed in 39th AGM. His appointment is valid up to 44th AGM. Auditor is appointed in 1st AGM. His appointment is valid up to 6th AGM. Auditor is appointed for the first financial year. His appointment is valid until conclusion of first AGM. On this first AGM, on this 44th AGM, on this 6th AGM, he should vacate. No. His term of appointment is over. He is vacating now. Now again there is a vacancy in the office. That is not casual vacancy. Why? At that time we have appointed another already. That is not casual vacancy. So then what is casual vacancy? Casual vacancy is a vacancy arising in auditor's office, not on account of expiry of term, other than on account of expiry of term, which means, sir, we appointed auditor on 39th AGM, sir. His appointment is actually valid up to 44th AGM, sir. But before 44th AGM conclusion, before itself, auditor left the office, sir. Auditor left the office for some reason. Auditor vacated the office before his appointment is over. Now, this particular concept is called as casual vacancy. Remember, this has been tested on true or false case. For 2 marks, this has been tested. Casual vacancy means vacancy arising in auditor's office on account of any reason, including expiry of term. False. Other than expiry of term. That is casual vacancy. Okay, sir, what happens? Okay, sir, casual auditor left, sir, in between. What we should do? You should immediately appoint another auditor. That is called filling of casual vacancy. Now we are actually discussing the concept of filling of casual vacancy. You should fill the vacancy. How should we fill the vacancy? What is the procedure for filling the vacancy is what we are going to learn. By the way, why casual vacancy arises? What are the reasons for casual vacancies? Why there is a vacancy? Why auditor leave the company? The following reasons. He did not like the company, so he resigned from the company. Resignation is one reason. He resigned from the company, so resignation is one reason. Second one, maybe death of the auditor. We have appointed an individual auditor and he died. Or we have appointed a partnership firm and it got dissolved, dissolution of the firm. We appointed an auditor, his relative became director of the company. subsequent disqualification. If you remember subsequent disqualification, for the first time we encountered with the word casual vacancy there. If you recap subsequent disqualification notes in the material, if after the appointment is made, if the auditor is affected with any of the above disqualification, he shall immediately vacate the office, and such vacancy shall be treated as casual vacancy, if you remember. If not, go back to that para and once again check. Subsequent disqualification, or company itself removed him, removal of the auditor, company itself removal of auditor, company itself removed him, resignation, death of the auditor, subsequent disqualification, or company itself removed the auditor, or auditor became insolvent, or lunatic, or incompetent to contract, or he became incompetent to contract. So many number of reasons. So the reasons broadly that we can identify right now is resignation of the auditor, death of the auditor, dissolution of the auditor, subsequent disqualification of the auditor, removal of the auditor, insolvent or lunatic or whatever. These are the broad reasons why a vacancy can arise in auditor's office. Why auditor leave the company? Because of the following reasons. Okay, sir, understood. Sir, is this possible in both government company as well as non-government company, or is it possible only for non-government companies? It is possible for both. The auditor, the vacancy can be possible for both. In case of government company, C&AG appointed within 180 days, you as an auditor, you left in between before conclusion of next AGM. Or Reliance Industries Limited appointed you as an auditor, you left before 6th AGM conclusion. Anywhere in government or non-government, anywhere it can happen. So what is the procedure for filling the casual vacancy? What is the procedure for filling of casual vacancy? The procedure we need to understand. What is the procedure for filling of casual vacancy? The procedure is as below. The procedure is as below. The procedure is different for government company. Again, it is different for non-government company. Wherever the auditor concept comes, it is different for government company and non-government company. In case of government company, casual vacancy shall be filled by C&AG within 30 days. C&AG shall fill the vacancy within 30 days. And if C&AG fails to do so, then board of directors can fill within next 30 days. And sir, we have appointed now auditor, right? For how many months or years he can be appointed in casual vacancy? Nothing, until conclusion of next AGM. This auditor is appointed, he left suddenly, books of accounts are not yet audited, audit report is needed. So we want audit report before we conduct the AGM. So we want another auditor temporarily appointed until next AGM, his appointment is valid, he'll leave. Next, then C&AG will decide within next 180 days of the next financial, they will decide. So this is in case of government company. Understand? In case of government company, casual vacancy shall be filled by C&AG. If C&AG fails, board will fill. I'm telling you, whenever C&AG gets the opportunity, they never fail. Board of directors will never get the opportunity. And next, non-government company. What is the procedure for filling auditor in case of non-government company? Here there is a bifurcation. Just a minute. Here there is a bifurcation. What is the reason why vacancy arises? What is the reason? In case of non-government company, if a casual vacancy arises, we need to look into the fact. Why casual vacancy arises? On account of what reason it has been arised? Due to resignation, there is a casual vacancy. Due to resignation of auditor, there is a casual vacancy. No, it is not resignation. It is other than resignation. Death of the auditor, removal of the auditor, subsequent disqualification of the auditor, dissolution of the auditor's firm, insolvent, lunatic, all that, other than resignation. What is the reason? You need to identify. And the law says the reasons are broadly classified into two types. In case of non-government, if you see the government company, we have not given any importance to the reason at all. Auditor would have resigned or died. Any reason it might be. C and AG only shall fill. But you see, non-government company, we are looking at reason why there is a vacancy. If it is other than resignation, board of directors can fill the vacancy within next 30 days. Within 30 days. Board of directors can fill the vacancy within 30 days, and his appointment is valid until conclusion of 6th AGM, not valid until conclusion of next AGM only. Remember, next AGM only. 6th AGM concept, 5 years appointment concept will come into picture only if the auditor is appointed in an AGM. Only if the auditor is appointed in AGM, the concept of 5 AGMs will come into picture. Otherwise, it won't. If an auditor is appointed under casual vacancy in a private limited company which is not owned by government, which is a non-government company, his appointment is valid until conclusion of next AGM only. In that next AGM, we will bring another auditor, members will appoint him, and his appointment is valid up to 6th AGM. Next. Suppose if it is due to resignation, board of directors can appoint within 3 months. I mean, board of directors can appoint the auditor. Subject to approval of members at an AGM which shall be conducted within 3 months from the recommendation of the board, which is conducted from 3 months from the recommendation of board of directors. Board of directors will select the auditor. No. Once board of directors finalized the auditor, vacancy arise. Now we need to appoint another auditor. That another auditor is also finalized by board of directors. He finalized. Now once he finalized, within 3 months, company shall conduct EGM. In that EGM, members' approval is required through ordinary resolution. Wherever approval concept is there, it is ordinary. Unless they specifically said it is special. If nothing is mentioned, it is ordinary resolution. By ordinary resolution, board of directors can appoint the auditor, getting it, at an EGM, which shall be conducted within 3 months from the recommendation. Sir, what about this? Members' approval is there? No. Is his appointment valid for 5 years? No. His appointment is also valid until conclusion of next AGM. Here also, until conclusion of next AGM. So one common point in casual vacancy is the appointment of auditor under casual vacancy is valid until conclusion of next AGM only. That's it. This is regarding casual vacancy. Have you all understood? I explained you the meaning of casual vacancy. I explained you how in different ways the vacancy can come into all that. Suppose all of you tell me, I'll ask you one question which is asked for 2 marks question. XYZ and Co, XYZ Limited, let us assume Limited, XYZ Limited, which is public company, non-government company, appointed Mr. A as an auditor of the company, who is a relative to chairman of the company, Chairman is nothing but officer of the company, chairman of the company. Subsequently, Mr. A resigned. From the company, and therefore, or else Mr. A died. Let us assume Mr. A died. Therefore, board of directors appointed Mr. B within 30 days to fill the casual vacancy. Mr. B within 30 days to fill the casual vacancy. Comment, is it true or false? Is it correct or incorrect? They are asking you correctness of this. A was appointed as an auditor for the company, who is a relative to chairman of the company. Subsequently, A died because of so and so reason. And now casual vacancy arises. Board of directors appointed Mr. B within 30 days to fill the casual vacancy. Is this correct or not? You need to tell me, all of you. Is it correct or not? Rana is saying true. Yes, correct. There's she's saying. Yeah, others. What about others? This question has been tested for 2 marks. What about others here? Where is the reply? Fast. Process it fast. Bhargavi is saying true. Bhargavi. Rajeshwari is saying true. Very good. Very good. Next. What about others? It is completely wrong. This is completely wrong. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. This is incorrect. Harshit is saying it is false. There is no recommendation of committee. The reason is incorrect. The false is right, but reason is incorrect. Incorrect. See, Mr. A is an auditor who is a relative to chairman of the company, right? First of all, his appointment itself is invalid, ma. His appointment itself is invalid. His appointment itself is invalid. What is casual vacancy definition? An auditor who is appointed, an auditor, a vacancy arising in auditor's office after appointment is made before expiry of term, other than on account of expiry of term. After appointment is made means appointment means valid appointment or invalid appointment. Sir, even if just appointment is done, that's enough, sir. Is that appointment correct or incorrect? We don't bother. Is it the correct way, or appointment is made means valid appointment only we should consider? Obviously, valid appointment we should consider. Here, Mr. A himself is disqualified. First of all, understand. Here, the concept of casual vacancy do not arise because auditor himself is not appointed. Anything which you do something not valid is void ab initio. Mr. A appointment itself is invalid. So there is no, when the appointment itself is not valid, where is the question of casual vacancy? You need to write clearly like this. This question was tested for 2 marks. Majority of the students wrote the answer true. So careful, be careful. Next. Rajeshwari, can you read, ma?
Explain the provisions to fill the casual vacancy arising in the
Yeah, go ahead.
not visible, sir.
Yeah, it is audible, ma.
I'm listening in laptop, it is not visible.
Apdiya. By the way, just hold on for 1 minute. Rajeshwari, can you check now?
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Explain the provisions to fill the casual vacancy arising in the office of the auditor. As per section 139 subsection 8, any casual vacancy in the office of an auditor shall, A, in case of non-government company, other than resignation, shall be filled by the board of directors on recommendations of audit committee within 30 days. Resignation. The appointment shall also be approved by the company at an annual general meeting, at a general meeting convened within 3 months of the recommendations of the board.
Next, government company.
Government company. It shall be filled by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India within 30 days. In case if the COG does not fill the vacancy within 30 days, then the board of directors shall fill the vacancy within next 30 days.
So it may be any reason, including
resignation.
Okay, whereas in non-government, resignation, separate procedure, non-resignation, separate procedure. Yeah, period of appointment.
Period of appointment. The auditor appointed under casual vacancy shall hold the office till conclusion of next annual general meeting only.
Whether it is government or non-government, same only. Yes or no?
Yes.
What is the meaning of casual vacancy? Yeah.
Meaning of casual vacancy. If vacancy arises in the auditor's office on account of any reason other than expiry of term, in other words, concept of casual vacancy arises only before expiry of term of appointment of auditor.
That too after valid appointment only. Yes or no?
Yes.
That too after valid appointment.
Valid appointment.
Valid appointment and before expiry of term. Yes or no? Yeah, this is the keyword. Very important. That's it. So with this, casual vacancy concept is also completed. Are you confident, Rajeshwari?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine, ma. Mute yourself and I'll proceed with the next topic again. Next one. Now there is another concept which is nothing but 140 subsection 2. What is the duty of the auditor? What is the duty of the auditor who resigned from the company, who did resignation? Who did resignation? So, sir, what is meant by resignation? First of all, what is meant by resignation? Resignation is, first of all, it's a breach of contract. It's a breach of contract. Breach of contract. What do you mean by breach of contract? You appointed me until 6 AGM, but in between I'm leaving. I'm resigning from the company. I'm doing a breach of contract. Of course, I'm breaching the contract without, I won't breach a contract without analyzing all the pros and cons. Definitely, even I will have to face certain consequences. But when I am resigning, I need to follow certain protocol. I need to follow certain rules. What? First of all, resignation is something. Is oral resignation valid? Is oral resignation valid? No. The resignation must be in writing. You must take your letterhead, type the matter clearly, mention the reasons clearly, and give that letter, hand over the letter to the management of the company. Only then it is treated as a resignation. Further, the auditor who resigned from the company, first of all, I told you, shall inform the company through a formal resignation letter, In case of government company, he shall also inform to C&AG. And he shall file a form with ROC. He shall file a form with ROC in form ADT3 within 30 days from the date of resignation. Within 30 days from the date of resignation. This is the duty of the auditor who resigned from the company. By the way, he has to file form ADT3, right, with the ROC to indicate that he resigned from the company. He has resigned from the company, you should inform the ROC. Dear ROC, I am no more the auditor. As per your records, company filed ADT1 earlier saying that I am the auditor, but look, I am no more the auditor, I resigned from the company. You need to inform the ROC. So he informed. Okay, this is the duty of the auditor who resigned. What if auditor fails to fulfill this ROC condition? What if auditor fails to file a form with ROC in ADT3 form? What is the duty? What is the penalty? That penalty point is explained under 140 subsection 3. As per 140 subsection 2, an auditor who resigned from the company shall inform the ROC in ADT3 form within 30 days, shall also inform to C&AG in case of government company. If auditor fails to do so, he shall be liable for a penalty. The penalty has been divided into two components. Fixed penalty is there and variable penalty is also there. Both the penalties are applicable. One is fixed penalty and variable penalty. Fixed penalty, if at all he fails to do so, to inform to ROC within 30 days. Within 30 days, if he fails to do so, 31st day onwards, it is treated as failure. How much is the penalty? A minimum of 50,000 or auditor's remuneration, whichever is lower, either 50,000 or remuneration, whichever is lower. Suppose your remuneration is just 20,000, then the penalty, fixed penalty will be 20, or may extend to rupees 5 lakhs. What is that rupees 5 lakhs may extend to? In fact, here you should not read this. Let us interpret that rupees word 5 lakhs later. Or else, okay, keep this. Or may extend to rupees 5 lakhs. Plus variable penalty, recently introduced this. This is recently introduced in 2019. Recently introduced. What is this variable penalty? From 31st day, it's a failure, right? 31st day. Auditor has to pay additional penalty of 500 per day of default. 500 per day of default delay. Suppose 500 per day of default. That is another additional penalty. Getting it? Now, what is this example? Let us take. Suppose auditor has resigned from the company on 1st May 2020. Let us assume a date, 1st May 2020. He should inform the company by 30th May 2020. By 30th May, he should inform. And he should file a form with ROC. He should also inform to C&AG, but he did not inform. He later remembered that he resigned. He has a duty to inform, and he informed the company on 17th June 2020. He informed to the company on 17th June. What is the delay? 18 days delay. 18 days delay is there. What is the penalty applicable? Here auditor's remuneration is 60,000 rupees. Actually, here the remuneration is 60,000 rupees. Auditor remuneration or 50,000, whichever is lower, which may extend to 5 lakhs. Who can extend that? Only ROC can levy penalty. If it is a very severe case, ROC may levy higher penalty. That's why that higher cap of 5 lakhs is given. But here ROC have not extended. How much is the penalty? Auditor remuneration or 50, whichever is lower. So 50,000 is a fixed penalty plus 18 days delay is there, no? 18 days delay is there, no? 18 days multiplied by 500 is equal to 9,000. So the total penalty that auditor has to pay is 59,000 to the ROC. Auditor has to pay to the ROC 59,000 because there is a delay of 18 days. Within 30th May, he should have informed. If at all he informed within 30th May, no penalty. After 30th May, there is a penalty. Minimum fixed penalty 50,000 is levied, and variable penalty 18 days delay is there, no, into but multiplied by 500 is equal to 59,000. This is the duty of the auditor who resigned from the company. If at all he did not fulfill this duty, this is the consequence. Penalty is the consequence. Have you all understood? Can you please reply me? All of you? Yes. Others also. Thomas Trivikram replied. Others also. Clear. That's it. Yeah, Rajeshwari, please read about the question number 8, ma. Are you there, ma, Rajeshwari?
Explain the duties of an auditor in case of resignation.
Yeah.
As per section 140 subsection 2, the auditor who has resigned from the company shall
file.
Wait 1 minute. Shall file a form with the company and the registrar in ADT 3 within a period of 30 days from the date of resignation. Further, in case of government company, he shall also inform the same to the Comptroller General of India. The statement shall indicate the reasons and other facts as may be relevant with regard to his resignation. As per section 140 subsection 3, in case of failure to comply with the above provisions, the auditor shall be liable with a fine not less than 50,000 or remuneration whichever is lower, and 500 per day for failure after the first. Also, the fine levied is subject to maximum 5 lakh.
In our example, what is the continuing failure? How many days the
18
continuing
days.
failure? 18 days. Continuing failure means after 30th day. 30 days you need to inform. 31st day onwards, every day is a continuing failure. Are you clear?
Clear.
Yeah. Next question number 1, please.
C.A. Donald was appointed as auditor of PS Limited at the remuneration of 30,000 rupees. However, after 4 months of continuing his services, he could not continue to hold his office of the auditor as his wife not a government
His wife
job,
got a government
got
job.
a government job at the distant place and he need to shift along with her to the new place. Thus, he resigned from the company and did not perform his responsibilities regarding the filing of statement to the company and register indicating the reasons and other facts as may be relevant with regard to this resignation. How much fine? Fine may be punishable. He may be punishable with under section 140 subsection 3 for non-compliance of section 140 subsection 3.
This provision as it is you need to write, like whatever the provision we have seen, as per 140 subsection 3 failure, that you need to write. Thus, the fine leviable under Companies Act shall be minimum 30, but which may extend even to 5 lakhs also. That's it. Easy. I hope everyone are feeling easy. Next concept is rotation of auditors. Next concept is rotation. Before I go for rotation of auditors, let us talk about removal of auditor of a company. Removal of auditor. You see section 140. There is a section called 140. It has totally 5 subsections. 140 subsection 1, 140 subsection 2, 140 subsection 3, subsection 4, subsection 5. 2 and 3 are regarding resignation. Just now we finished. 2 speaks about duty of the auditor, 3 speaks about penalty. 140 subsection 1 speaks about removal of auditor. Removal of auditor before expiry of term. Removal of auditor before expiry of term. 140 subsection 4, change of auditor after expiry of term through a special notice. I'm not saying here removal, it is change. Many will speak this as removal, many will actually interpret this as removal. That's not removal, it's change of auditors after expiry of term. Once the term is expired, why you have to remove? He's already left. The term is over, contract is over, no need to remove. But change is required through a special notice. What is special notice? Why that concept came into picture? All that we'll discuss later. Subsection 5, removal of auditor. This is also again removal of auditor. Whenever the word is removed, obviously remember it is before expiry of term by NCLT tribunal. Removal of auditor by NCLT, which is tribunal. Now, removal of auditor here, no, here there is removal of auditor by company. Here it is by company, here it is by tribunal. So if you look at the removal of auditor concept, removal of auditor before expiry of term, if you look at this concept, removal of auditor before expiry of term, it has two components. Removal by the company, like section 140 subsection 1. It may be removal by NCLT, which is section 140 subsection 5. Two concepts of removals we are discussing. In both the cases, the auditor is removed before expiry of term. Removed. He didn't left. We are making him to leave. We are leaving. We are only suspending him. We are only dismissing him. So that is called removal. So what is the procedure for a company in order to remove an auditor? First of all, my question is, why a company want to remove an auditor? What could be the reason that a company want to remove the auditor? It's a very rare. Till now, there is no practical case at all where a company removed the auditor. Practical case is not there. But if at all a situation comes, why first of all a company want to remove an auditor? What is the reason for that? Maybe auditor is not providing services properly. Auditor is not conducting the audit properly. Or auditor would have involved in some fraudulent activities within the company when he is conducting the audit. Or auditor would have misbehaved. Yes, not abiding his duties. There are so many reasons why the board of directors or the governance, those charged with governance, want to remove the auditor. So what is the procedure they need to follow? The first and foremost thing they need to follow is board resolution shall be passed. A company who want to remove the auditor shall pass a board resolution. Next, within 30 days of board resolution, company shall obtain permission of central government. Company shall obtain permission of central government for approval for removal. Dear central government, we want to remove the auditor on so and so reason, for which company has to file ADT2 form. ADT2, there is a form called ADT2 which will be filed by the company management with the ROC, which will go to the central government concerned department, and you need to mention the reason why you want to remove. Within 30 days of the board resolution, you need to file this form. Suppose central government approved, within 60 days of approval, from central government, company shall conduct an extraordinary general meeting. Within 60 days of approval from central government, once you got approval, within 30 days you apply, next 10 days you got approval. Now the date you got approval, right? From that date, within 60 days, conduct an extraordinary general meeting, pass special resolution of members at EGM, removing the auditor. See how complicated, if at all you want to remove. The first and foremost complicated step is central government permission is needed, for which you need to give a concrete evidence, a proper reason. And once you got the permission, you need to again conduct general meeting, pass 3/4 majority. Only if the 3/4 majority has been favor of the company, only then the auditor can be removed. This is the procedure. And you know, before you start this entire process, before even you pass board resolution, the moment board of directors think of removing the auditor, first call him and talk to him. Opportunity of being heard shall be given. Opportunity of being heard shall be given. Before removing the auditor, first talk to him, give an opportunity of being heard, then remove him. That's it. Even opportunity of being heard shall be given before board resolution. It shall also be given at the EGM to speak with the members also. So that is a process for removal of auditor before expiry of term. Before expiry of term. And here company has to file a form called ADT2. If you observe, a board resolution shall be passed to remove the auditor before expiry of term. By the way, this question has been tested as MCQ also, 2 marks MCQ in MTP. An application for central government shall be made in form ADT2 within 30 days of the board resolution. The company shall hold EGM. General meeting means obviously EGM within 60 days upon receipt of approval from central government for passing special resolution. Convene the general meeting and pass the special resolution removing the auditor. By the way, the moment you removed the auditor, there is a vacancy in auditor office. That vacancy is called as again casual vacancy. That vacancy is called as casual vacancy. And an opportunity of being heard shall be given to the auditor before removing him. That's it. You know, there is a question on this. Why central government permission is required when the auditors are to be removed before expiry of term, but the same is not needed when the auditors are changed after expiry? Suppose term is over, we are changing auditor. At that time, permission is not required. But before expiry of term, permission is required. Why? Study material also have no answer. But in RTP of November 2018, they have given an answer. They said one stupid answer. See, if an auditor is removed before expiry of term, definitely audit is not completed. Audit is not completed. When audit is not completed, audit report is not even received by the company, maybe the company himself want to remove the auditor for fraudulent activities. Maybe auditor is honest on his part. Because auditor is very honest and not cooperating with the company want to remove. Therefore, the power to remove the company auditor shall not be given absolutely with the company itself. So we must involve some government agent, central government. If we involve, company has to take a permission. If company has to take a permission, they need to mention the reason clearly. Only if the reason is clear, only if they inquire the reason whether it is correct or not, only then government official will give the permission. If we include a government in between, central government, so if the auditor is very honest, the companies cannot play with him like this. See, indirectly, no, by bringing central government permission, what am I doing? You know, I'm making auditor more powerful. I can do audit as strict as possible, as honest as possible. If at all company says, I want to remove you, go and do whatever you want. Go, you need to get central government permission. It's not that easy to remove me. So to protect independence of the auditor, because his appointment is not yet over, he's still conducting the audit. To make sure he is independent, company management should not have the power to remove him. In this way, we are providing greater independence to the auditor. Once term is over, who are you and me to discuss about this? No permission, nothing is required. You can just casually change the auditor. That's why on account of expiry of term, permission is not required. If it is before expiry of term, permission is required. That's it. You refer, all of you, November 18 RTP later on. You refer to that November 18 RTP later on. Okay, you will get it. You'll get it. Or else if not, I will send it to you. Don't worry, I will send it to you. So this is regarding removal of auditor before expiry of term by the company. Now, next concept is removal of auditor by tribunal. Removal of auditor by tribunal. Removal of auditor by tribunal. Removal of auditor before expiry of term. Obviously, whenever the concept of removal comes, it is obviously before expiry of term by National Company Law Tribunal, nothing but the tribunal. When a tribunal will remove, first of all, tribunal would have received some application from somebody. Tribunal would have received an application from somebody that so and so company auditor has involved in fraudulent manner, has involved in fraudulent activities, has colluded with management, he is not acting independently, such that tribunal has got some information. From whom the information tribunal may get? Central government he may get from, or creditors of the company, or any other aggrieved parties are there. From them also tribunal would have got or would have received this complaint, or tribunal may itself came to know directly. In that case, tribunal itself directly reacts. So tribunal may suo moto can react on this, or on an application made by central government, or an application made by any other aggrieved party. Now, on an application received like this, first what tribunal will do is tribunal will go and do an inquiry, in the company. Upon the inquiry, tribunal is satisfied that really the tribunal got satisfied that yes, auditor has involved in fraudulent activities. In such a case, the tribunal will immediately pass an order. If the tribunal is satisfied that the auditor of the company was indulged in fraud, or involved in fraud, or colluded with management, or those charged with the government to deceive the third parties, tribunal will pass an order to change the auditor immediately. It may pass an order, change auditor immediately. Nothing but remove the auditor present, whoever is there. Or tribunal may pass another order that current whoever is auditor shall not function anymore. The moment removal order or change of auditor is passed, casual vacancy arises. And you know, auditor has been removed. No, auditor, Mr. A is the auditor. On him, NCLT passed an order for removing him, right? What is the consequence for Mr. A? You know, he is disqualified for a period of 5 years. He cannot be appointed as an auditor for 5 years anywhere, because he has been convicted by tribunal as involved in fraud. If tribunal convicts an auditor, whoever is involved in fraud, such auditor cannot be appointed as auditor in any company for a minimum period of 5 years. And if you remember, sir, if the conviction is not by tribunal, sir, the court convicted him, in that case 10 years auditor is disqualified. Suppose court have not convicted, tribunal have convicted him as fraud, then in that case 5 years disqualified. 5 years. And now whenever the auditor vacated, no, because of this removal order, that's a casual vacancy. Casual vacancy provision as usual applicable. Board of directors have to fill within 30 days. Central government, government company, C&AG will fill within next 30 days. Explain the procedure for removal of auditor by tribunal. Application by whom? The tribunal on its own can react. Central government would have applied it to tribunal. Any other person. Application to whom? Obviously the tribunal. Procedure. If the tribunal is satisfied that the auditor of the company has acted in fraudulent manner or colluded in any fraud with the directors, officers of the company, then it may direct the company to change its auditor. Just a minute, all of you, just a minute. So if the tribunal is satisfied that auditor of a company has acted in fraudulent manner or colluded in any fraud with the directors or officers of the company, then it may direct the company to change the auditor. And suppose if the application to the tribunal is made by central government and tribunal is satisfied that change of auditor is required, it shall make the auditor that he shall not function as an auditor within 15 days of receipt of application from central government. If central government make an application to tribunal shall react within 15 days. And central government may appoint another auditor. You see here, if central government make an application and tribunal remove the auditor, casual vacancy comes, Generally, casual vacancy shall be filled by board of directors. But in case of central government applicant, central government may appoint. They said means central government will fill the casual vacancy. But since the word used is may, central government may fill the vacancy or may delegate to board of directors of the company. Anything can happen. But till date, they were not. This provision is also not applied practically. But one provision, case one is applied practically. There is a CA at Mumbai. There is a CA at Mumbai who has been removed. Mukesh Choksi. His name is Mukesh Choksi. You can just take NCLT removed auditor, Google search, you will find this case. He's an auditor for Gen Shaving Limited. There is some company, shell company. So because of so and so fraud, he was removed by the tribunal. Later he went to upper court and got favorable decision. That's okay. Okay. Now prohibition. An auditor, whether individual or firm, against whom the final order has been passed by the tribunal shall not be eligible for appointment as an auditor of any company for a period of 5 years from the date of passing the order. For a period of 5 years, they are not eligible for appointment as an auditor. For 5 years, they are not eligible. Suppose if the conviction is by court, then the prohibition shall be for 10 years. The conviction is by court, then the prohibition is for 10 years. So that is relating to removal of auditor by tribunal. Can you all please confirm in the chat box? Are you confident of this? Have you all understood this? All of you kindly reply me. Yes. Very good. Very good. Very good. Now, in the next class, we will start audit reporting. By the way, if you observe, rotation of auditors question is still pending, which we can discuss even later, because rotation of auditor is not connected with the other provisions. So we can discuss later. And after removal of auditor, if you observe rights of the auditor, duties of the auditor, these are all we need to discuss only after we discuss audit reporting chapter. The next remaining all other concepts we need to discuss only after we finish audit reporting. And we have today covered appointment procedure, removal of auditor, casual vacancy. On them, there are some practical questions that also we will once again discuss after we finish audit reporting classes. Remember, from next class, audit reporting will start. And the timing will be 2:30 to 4:30. I have already sent you the timetable also. So please go through that. So from tomorrow, 2:30 to 4:30, audit reporting straight away we are going to start. I will explain right from the basic. You don't, as if you don't know anything. Of course, until today also, I'm explaining the concepts in such a way as if you don't have any idea about any of the provisions of this Companies Act. Okay. I hope every one of you are still comfortable with the classes, all of you. Are you getting good clarity on auditing now? In fact, after you see the reporting classes, you will understand, you will get even more clarity, better clarity. Yes. Yeah, carry on for the day.